Well, this is yet another shocking development in the aftermath of the Matthew Perry arrests, the 5 people who were arrested and charged in his death. And 2 of them, as we've told you, are doctors. And we also told you that the 2 doctors, Mark Chavez and Salvador Plasencia, have had their, the DEA has pulled their registration so they cannot prescribe controlled substances.
Right.
That is not stopping at least one of them from going back into business. As early as today, we found out that Dr. Salvador Plasencia is planning to open up his clinic in his urgent care in Malibu as early as today, and will be able to see patients. It's going to be a little different, but essentially he gets to go back to business almost as usual. And that's kind of surprising for someone who is still charged with contributing the ketamine that killed Matthew Perry.
And could ultimately face like 120 years in prison, Charles.
Right. But he is not convicted at this point. He is just accused and will have his day in court. And until then, the DEA has made arrangements with him that allow him to go back to business and open this clinic. But it will be different for his patients in several ways.
Some of those ways you have to provide a written consent, and also that Dr. Plasencia has to provide the patients notice that he's under this investigation right now and just the circumstances surrounding his criminal case. And even though we pointed out yesterday that both Dr. Plasencia and Dr. Chavez can no longer prescribe prescription medications, that's only for controlled substances. So that would be for drugs like ketamine. But in this case, he can actually still be prescribing patients uncontrolled substances like antibiotics. Right. So I guess if you have a flu or something like that, you could still go see Dr. Plasencia.
And that's mostly what doctors are going to prescribe. It's normally not strong narcotics. I would say this, there are 100,000 plus doctors in Los Angeles. Or in California, excuse me. Why would you ever go see someone who has been accused? Even if he's not guilty, why see somebody whose judgment has been called into question to this degree? I just don't get it.
It seems weird, like the awkward conversation, and Jacob, this is what you're saying, like he has to actually verbally tell any patient that comes in that he sees that he has been charged in Matthew Perry's death. He is facing this charge and this charge and this charge, and then they have to actually sign a consent note before he can even treat them. It just seems like a lot of steps, but
at the same time, Charles, don't you think in a way he's doing this because he's pleading not guilty? So by going back to his practice, seeing patients, going about business as usual, maybe it's trying to show, at least be front-facing that, hey, I did nothing wrong here. I'm just going to go on with my life.
Remember, this is the doctor, by the way, that the authorities say referred to Matthew Perry as a moron in the text messages to Dr. Sanchez.
I guess he won't have to get into that detail with patients. But certainly they may have read it, and you know, we'll see what happens when he opens the door. He can open the doors. Doesn't mean that people are going to come in, but we'll see. I mean,
I'm so curious if patients come
I
back
also
to
think that there will be some curiosity, some sort of macabre curiosity, where there are people who want to go in and actually see him, and maybe they even want to talk about the case, which I'm sure his lawyers have told him not to.
Right. I hadn't thought about that.
But there will be people who will go in and want to do that.
Hi, I'm Allie from Dallas, and yeah, this story is insane. No amount of curiosity could get me to go visit this doctor. And so while I do agree with the DA's decision to strip them of their rights to prescribe medication, I do think that this just needs to be the beginning. I think that every prescription they've written should be investigated, and I also think that they should lose their licenses and their ability to practice. You know, as someone who's a patient, I wouldn't want to go see that doctor, especially based on what they said about Matthew Perry in those text messages. So it feels as though Matthew Perry was preyed upon, and it was more about profit than his well-being.
Yeah. By the way, that the text message about where the feds say that he referred to Matthew Perry as a moron. His lawyer told us that it was maybe a bad joke or in poor taste, but he said he didn't have the full context of the conversation. So those are things that will probably come out in court should this go forward. Right now he's pled not guilty, so we will see if Dr. Plasencia has an explanation for that part of it.